a 2-1 smash and grab against the Chicken people at the weekend has still left us with a crumbling piece of playoff pie on our plates, waiting patiently for a slip up above us while we somehow continue to pick up results. Joining me tonight, or this morning, as you'll listen to this, as always, is Ross Webber. He's wearing his beanie hat inside.
I'm wearing
Ross, look,
okay, you go ahead.
Look what I got.
Oh. Wow. What? I'm sorry. What exactly am I looking at here through the Atlantic internet pipes? I am not even quite sure what that is. Oh, wow. Is that a Jack Marriott? What is this? You were talking about it last week.
You're making this really difficult. It's a Jack Marriott cup. I've got one.
Oh, you got one. Very nice. Very nice too. I'm sorry. It was slightly blurry when I was looking at it and you were showing it to me. And I was like, I know he's showing me something. And then I saw the biscuit kit and I was like, we got to go. I mean, now, listeners, he's holding it outside of the range of the camera. So, this is going very, very well. If you are watching the pod, you will notice a very nice shirt that Ben's wearing. Do you want to tell us about this slightly 90s bus seat sort of kit that you're wearing?
Yeah, so this is the... I've always said I'm a big Seattle Sounders fan. Never said that. We like shirts on the pod, don't we? We do. If you're looking on YouTube, Ross has always got this amazing selection behind him. I tend to wear ones because I've got nothing behind me really. But yeah, this was just a really cool shirt, and I just like the old school cartoony badge. And this was like a range that Adidas do with MLS, where they do like the throwback. You'd call them jerseys. Normal people just say shirts or kits. Yeah. So yeah, I thought I'd pop that on today. I was going to wear my new. I've got the new 150th Welsh shirt, but you told me about our school uniform. So.
Yeah, you look like you're down the primary school when you wear that one. So I can't be, which you are sometimes, but to be fair.
Every day.
Yeah. I'm just going to make very, very clear to listeners here, Ben works in a school. That's not like a weird thing that we just said. So anyway, getting out of that. This one's gone really well. This intro has been brilliant. I can't see your cup. Anyway, let's get into it.
I didn't even write that intro, and you spoilt it because you didn't see my cup, and now we're just waffling on about nonsense. But anyway, I got a Jack Marriott cup, Reading won. I got a Siren beer as well. We can talk about that in a minute. Big thanks to Waldy and his team, as he said Films. Huge thanks to our musical supporters, the Amazons. Older listeners will remember a band called the Cooper Temple Claws, who are from Reading, and I've started listening to them this week.
That's
good. Do you know
good.
the Cooper Temple Claws, Ross?
No, is Bill Oddie in that?
He was not. Anyway, they're really good, really good. And also Siren. We've got news at the end of the pod about how you too can benefit from some Siren goodness. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about this later on. Haven't opened it yet. It's just chilling. Let's talk about a win, shall we? A bloody good win.
Yeah.
Right. Welcome to episode 350 something.
I think it's 453. This one is going so well. Ben, do you want me to just take over? I've already come off the back of the women's team recording today, so I'm limber,
But before we do, so for clarity for number fans, it's episode 453. I don't know what's going on. I really don't. And we wonder why people from the club sometimes don't want to come on to this. It's just what are we doing? Talk about your upcoming release of a women's pod.
Sure, yeah. That will be out any day now if it's not out already. So keep an eye on that. But there's exciting things going on with the women's team. There is a League Cup semi-final coming up with AFC Portchester and Peter Williams, who is just excellent. Really, really excellent, who does the kind of reports and things like that on the Tilehurst End website. Kind of came in to chat with me again today just about what's going on. And yeah, lots of kind of fun stuff going on. The team are on an impressive unbeaten streak right now. And Peter also spoke to goalkeeper coach Ryan Robinson. So definitely worth listening out for that one. So it'll be on the YouTube channel. It'll be on the pod feed as well, where all your good pods are gotten at for whatever you need them for.
Yeah, I mean, Peter Matthews is a wonderful guy, absolutely fantastic, and he was actually, there was obviously Q&A before the game on Saturday with Rob and Todd, and he asked the question about the women's team, and that'll be on there. I think that's on YouTube as well. I've not seen it yet, but I know he did ask and question what was going on. So we
talked about that a little bit on this video, so you can kind of hear a little bit more about that if you are interested. But yeah, definitely an interesting time for them right now, and I think that Ed Jackson-Norris has really got his feet under the desk with the women's team at this point. So kind of mine and Peter's main hope is that the coaching staff stays the same over the summer, and there's a little bit of stability in that women's team.
Yeah, well, hopefully onwards and upwards for them, and obviously onwards and upwards for us. Massive result of the weekend, which was a victory snatched from the jaws of defeat. Really,
I would say so. Yeah.
And the headline that I've got in front of me from the Football League paper is Royals pinch a dramatic late win as the Bantams crumble. Did we pinch it, Ross?
I think it's funny how football works, isn't it? That you get these two late equalizers against us in a row, and then if the next game is us getting late winners. I do think it's the football gods are a real thing, aren't they? And they are vindictive and very karmic in their retribution. Did we deserve to win this game? I got to be honest with you, Ben. I don't think either team deserved to win this game of football. I thought it was a turgid game. There were 16 shots in this. And 7 of them came after the 90th minute, right? So it was a bit of a mad scramble after 90 minutes. But other than that, I think that what was going on the field wasn't the best advert for League One, personally. Bradford, they had 9 shots in the second half, and 6 of those came after the 90 minutes. So yeah, it was a really weird game. I think the primary thing I feel about this game is that I am very happy for the goal scorers, because if there was anyone who needed just like a little bit of a confidence boost on this team, then I think it was probably Paddy Lane. And at this point, it's hard to tell whether he's doing the listening, like the ears celebration, because that's what he's always done now with Reading fans, or if he's actually, hearing things. But how did you feel when that goal went in, Ben? Because a hard season for Lane.
Yeah, it has. I think, to be honest with you, it was definitely relief. I think I said that after the match in my post-match video. I felt that I don't think we were good value in the game. On the goals, both very, very good goals. I think given the time, and it was an interesting atmosphere, really, because there was kind of some booing that, with the substitutions, and I don't really get that. I don't really understand that. Like, yeah, we've been frustrated on this pod. We've been frustrated in the stands as fans. But when you're in the position we're in, and we need the points to be able to keep pushing, to kind of boo substitutions is a really interesting one. Whether or not you're booing, either way, it's a negative vibe in terms of the booing the player that's going off because you're not happy with what they've done, or because you're not happy with the players that are coming on. But there's sorry, my cat's just bitten me for no real reason.
Wow, it's just showing you who's boss right here. And that was Paddy Lane showing Bradford who's boss in the last minute of this one. I will real quick on Paddy Lane.
Yeah, I mean, look, the key for me is consistency. Has always been that. And those two players, Richie has probably been better consistency-wise than Paddy Lane. Paddy Lane's had a very, very poor season. There's made no mistake about it. He's obviously very frustrated with himself. And when players react in that way, some fans are like, oh, I don't really care. It's up to them. Others, really, really get annoyed. I don't see a problem with it personally. Like, you have to have that relationship. Does it make me like them more? Absolutely not. But if they're scoring winners and it gets us in the playoffs, I don't care. They're not going to be at the club long term. Certainly Matt Ritchie, I don't think he'll be there next season. Paddy Lane is one of those that could kick on and, might rejuvenate his career overall with us. But, I think it's much of a muchness, really. I really do. I was disappointed with the boos, personally, but, everyone can express their opinion the way they want to express it. And those players did when they scored.
So I want to be positive about I think I want to be positive about kind of like Liam and this game and things like that, because look, I do think that this was pretty turgid for large periods. But the problem is, I think that's kind of to a degree what Liam is trying to do, not make things turgid, don't get me wrong. But I think that we can't discount in this particular game how big of a hit it was that Marriott was suddenly out of the lineup and there was no chance that he was going to play. Perhaps it was that, the actual players had learned that earlier, but it does change kind of like how you're going to play if your star striker is not available. And the two things that I appreciated about Liam in this game was, I believe, so we saw him go to the back three, the back five sort of setup against Bradford at their place, and it just didn't work. And then we set up like that again in this particular game, and I was like, what are we doing? What are we like? We know this doesn't work. But to be fair to Liam, like, we pretty much shut down their entire threat, through the first sort of 90 minutes of the game, which sounds ridiculous because obviously a centre back has walked up and scored a goal. But, again, like, if you're limiting teams to shots from the outside of the box, not within the centre of the net, you're expecting most of them in League One to go into row Z. And then occasionally, I don't know if you saw the behind the goal angle on the Bradford goal from the weekend, but that thing it's like a knuckleball and it just moves horribly. Like, as Pereira puts his hands up, the whole ball just swerves.
I think Pereira came in for unnecessary stick, certainly in real time. I think it was very difficult to stop that, personally. Like, it was a really sweet hit, because obviously where I sit is not quite behind the goal, but behind that goal to the right.
Yeah,
and the ball moved. It really did move, and so what I was really frustrated with was the fact that people didn't get out to him quick enough.
That's definitely fair.
Issue. So, I think people are looking for players to blame and have been looking for players to blame. And has Pereira been fantastic? No, still the best goal in the league, bar none. In terms of shot stopping and his overall ability to, save points or win points or however you want to look at it. I just felt he came in for a little bit of unnecessary stick with that, and it was disappointing. When they scored, it did suck out the energy that was building. But I think you're right. I think turgid is a perfectly acceptable way to describe that. You touched a little bit on Jack Marriott being out. We have to talk about Long Kelvin. He's been one of our go-to players in terms of positivity and just willing something to happen, not least because his celebration is one of the coolest in the team, for sure. Like,
pretty cool. Yeah, I do like that.
When he does it as well, it's just like, but what did you make of his performance?
It's tricky, isn't it? Like, again, I think that I guess I can talk about Kelvin's performance in the context of like kind of what I'd spotted that I think is to not blame is the makes it sound too negative, but to explain what is kind of going on with this Reading team. So let me kind of blend those two kinds of things together, and I apologize, listeners, this is going to go away from Long Kelvin for a minute. So when I say in a second, Ben, what on earth am I talking about? Long Kelvin is the answer in this roundabout way. But I put a video up on YouTube a couple of days ago about how I think I've kind of worked out what it is that Liam wants out of this team.
It's a lovely video, by the way. Lovely video.
Thank you. I put a thumbs down when you said that for some reason. The Apple Mac is really an incredible device.
I think it's because I leaned in and I sounded a bit sinister when I said it.
You did, yeah. And then my computer.
It's a lovely video.
It is, yeah. Really no, please check it out. But basically, my point in the video is just that my opinion, and you can kind of see this in the stats. Reading play the ball around in their half about 2/3 of the time they have it, and they play it in the opponent's half only about 1/3. And I was kind of trying to think about why that is, because like in general you want to play in the other half, right? Because that's where the opponent's goal is, that you can score a goal in. But there are teams that have done this sort of approach, and it kind of comes from this sort of De Zerbi-esque bait them onto us sort of approach. And we've talked about with Wing wanting to find that space in between the defensive line and the goalkeeper for Marriott to run onto. I think that if you look at the stats, you can see that that is what Reading are doing over and over again, is that they're trying to bait teams onto them to build up space in behind and then kick it over the top. This is not necessarily just like long ball football. Like I said, I just mentioned De Zerbi being one of the pioneers of this style of football. And I think that Arne Slot, with his title-winning team last year, was doing a kind of similar thing in that he would leave, let teams come onto him, but then he had Alexander Arnold at the back who could, in space, whip the ball over accurately. We have a player like Lewis Wing who can put the ball over the top accurately. I can understand the desire from Liam to just say, screw it, we'll just draw them onto us and kick it over the top football. Now, when it comes to Kelvin, though, there we go, I got it back to Long Kelvin. I don't think that suits his play style at all. I think that Kelvin is a striker who needs the ball to feet. I do not think that he's a guy that, I don't, even though he's been a left winger at many points in his life, I don't think of him as a guy that runs onto through balls with extreme pace. I don't think of him as particularly fast. Even though he's tall, he's not particularly physical, and he doesn't have the best sense of when to make runs. Like I said, he is more of a player who needs the ball to his feet so that he can then kind of create something and create a little bit of space around a defender with sort of like a shimmy or something rather than a really good piece of running. And what you'll see with Jack Marriott is that he very rarely needs to go around a player, because what he's better at is sort of just drifting off into space and into the blind spots of defenders. And I think that this Reading team is built to work with a striker like that. I think Sam Smith would still be absolutely feasting in this Reading team right now. And I just think that Kelvin is not that kind of striker. And unfortunately, I just don't think it's going to work out for him while Liam is here, because even if we change our, approach a little bit, I don't think it's going to change enough that it's going to suit what Kelvin wants to do. My theory of Kelvin is that he needs to be in a team that has a lot of the ball and has a lot of the ball in the opposition's half, because he's not, like I say, again, pretty good at shimmying around a player or something like that. But Jack Marriott's got 16 goals in the league this year, and most of his goals, you look back at them, he's not got like a player in front of him or something that he's gone around. He's kind of got in behind on the run and hit the ball unmolested, into the net. So, yeah, sorry, you didn't like the phrase that I used.
I just wonder if you ever listen to what you say. Honestly, every time this season where you just come up with words, I'm like, you do speak English, don't you? Like, you understand the meaning of words. Like,
speak American.
What a phrase that is.
It's very different.
Anyway, what we took Long Kelvin.
Yeah.
There's a rumour doing the rounds that Liam actually said Long Kelvin last night. If you look at the Tilehurst end tweets.
Oh, really? Really?
Just saying.
Excellent.
It's going to catch on one day. It's going to catch on. That's why we need him to score goals. So that phrase, Long Kelvin, really does catch on properly.
And I agree with you. I like the celebration. I really wish it would come together for Long Kelvin. But like the more months go on, the more I look at Jaden Wareham's scoring record, and I'm like, when I think about it.
You got to stop talking about Jaden Wareham, though, mate. You got to stop talking about him.
Fair.
He won't be at Exeter for much longer anyway. So
can I keep talking about XG, or is that also off the docket?
It's off the it's off the docket for now.
It's off the docket. It's unmolested on the docket.
Well, we had the Williams brothers back. They're not brothers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Although Des featured, didn't he, against Port Vale, and
he did,
Randall came in. Good to have them bolster the squad, even if it wasn't, particularly in Randall's case, his best showing.
I was going to say, if Pereira came in for any criticism after this particular game, then maybe he could redirect that to Randall Williams, who limply kicked the ball to the goal scorer and then didn't close him down quick enough, which was an interesting double move.
Another player that was much talked about before kickoff was Sean Patton, who had done very, very well at Aldershot. In a competitive league, regardless of the level, it's still a competitive league. As you always remind me, it's better than playing U18, U21 football. So he's come back into the club now with Marriott seemingly out for longer than anyone would want him to be at this stage of the season. What did you make of his impact? Because obviously when he came on, it almost like we reverted to a front two. How did you see that pan out in the scope of the game? And do you think long term that's something that we could really build on as a two up top?
Yeah, I think so. Because, I mean, I think that if Will Keane was fit, then he'd be playing a lot more right now. And I do think that, like I said last week, this particular setup, I think works quite well in a 4-4-2, whereby you want to have, if you're going to use your back four, and then you're going to use, Lewis and Liam to kind of be your six towards the back that are getting involved in build up, then you want to have a nice set of four players high, especially if you're going to kick long. Maybe if you're going to come a little bit shorter, like Kamari Doyle did a few times in the first half to receive a pass, you'll see that too. But a lot of the time what you kind of want is four players sitting back, so that four forward players pushing the defensive line back, so that if it gets kicked over the top, you've got a good chance of being 4v5 against their defenders, which is a pretty good ratio. You may even get 4-on-4 against them. I kind of think I think that doing this sort of two up front thing is definitely something that Liam is going to want to do moving forward. And I also thought that this was the moment that the game kind of changed a little bit. I thought Lane was decent too, but this kind of, to me, was the time when Reading were able to get that ball forward a little bit more often and actually have it stick. Whereas before, with aiming at just Kelvin, I don't think that was really working for them. I think that the times that Reading got the ball forward were the times that Kamari Doyle dropped into what you would call sort of the red zone in between the pressing line and the defence, and picked up the ball and then turned and ran towards the opposition goal. I know we kind of wanted to debate this on that topic. I become more convinced every week of two things. One, I want Kamari Doyle next season, and two, we cannot afford Kamari Doyle. So those are my two opinions about that.
What makes you think we can't afford them?
I think
he's playing down a level.
Yeah, I think he's clearly better than this level, in my opinion. I think that he could probably mix it up in the championship. And I think that the reason I say that is because it's not just he showed up this year and done it. He did it last year as well, that he was pretty good for two separate League One clubs. And I just kind of think that you can fall into a club and it can be a really good fit for you. And so even if you're not quite at the top level, you can still show your talent. I kind of feel like Joe Jacobson is one of these sorts of players. You can kind of still be worth it on a team. Whereas with Kamari Doyle, because he's been good on several different League One teams now, I kind of just think that he will be good on any team where you plug him in. He's got 7 goal involvements now, and I don't think that he's been as good this season as maybe last season even, when he had 14 goal involvements, right? So that, to me, suggests that there is a player there. He's actually snaked off a little bit this season versus last year, which is interesting. So I just think there's more to come as well. And in a team that doesn't make it easy for him, because it doesn't really play in the way that suits him, in my opinion, I think he's quietly had a pretty good season.
I think your point about there's more to come sums up a number of those players and the team in general. Mm-hmm. And that's probably a good place to pick up Leam Richardson, his kind of Q&A at the stadium last night with the Supporters Trust at Reading Star. Did you go to the event?
No, I live in Maine. I wish. Yeah, did you go? No, well, there you go.
I'm not a Star member, so I wouldn't. No.
No. All right. Well,
we'll leave it at that.
This is our input on the Q&A. We don't know.
I didn't. Yeah, I didn't. I didn't go. I'm not part of Star currently for reasons. But what I would say is that Sim went, and he enjoyed the event by all accounts. He's put up a wonderful kind of, what do you call it?
Unpacking. An unpacking is what we call it. Sort of a breakdown of where it is. I think I think it's good that you did this, Liam, right? Because we've called
Me
him
too.
LinkedIn Liam several times.
You have. Don't
Um,
bring me into this. You've started it, and it's
you've
been
definitely
trending
called him
with
LinkedIn Liam as
hundreds of
well.
people.
Yeah,
So
wow.
you called him that. So when we
Yeah.
eventually get him on it, you can say it to his face, you little slug.
I'll be like, look, Liam, see, you don't like social media. The one that I kind of made equivalent to you is the professional one, Liam. See, I'm complimenting him. I'm not saying like you're on Quora. You know, if I came in and said, yeah, Liam Richardson gives me Quora vibes, then like we'd be in a bigger issue, you know, like
Yeah,
then
fine.
he would be well within his rights to sue, I would say.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you're right. It's good that he did it. I mean, you know, the feedback generally is that he came across incredibly well. Where these kind of shorter form interviews, whilst good, I think are positive. I think Royals TV have done very well with that content overall. It doesn't allow for that depth, and it doesn't allow for those probably more emotive questions that you'd obviously get from a fan base that wants answers and wants reasons and wants to ask questions. So by all accounts, he was able to tackle those. I think what is interesting is that there is a vision that he's not been able to implement, which I suppose when you look at it objectively, that's obvious because he's inherited a squad that's kind of a bit here and there. You know, it was kind of pieced together in the summer. There was contract renewals that we probably felt shouldn't have been contract renewals, but were done anyway, whilst they were trying to sort out finances, long term. So I think what is interesting is the vision. Do you, based on what you've read and you've seen and
Yeah.
you've heard from that particular interview, do you feel that he is, the man, regardless of what happens this season, to drive it forward into next? And do you feel that him having a quality pre-season or any sort of pre-season is going to be able to impart his vision when we come back in, August, whatever it is in the summer?
It's become his new like thing to talk about for sure, the preseason, and previously, like I feel like prior to January, it was the transfer window that he would bring up quite frequently, and preseason is definitely something that I think all of us can appreciate. You know, you're going to feel like a little bit more up to speed and everything if you've had one, because you've had that time to do that planning, that strategy, and like compare your own performance back to that. And I think that's part of why like we didn't necessarily start the season well, is because I think just through experience or lack thereof, Noel just didn't have the chops to do that managerial planning through the preseason. Liam's had a few teams, already, and whatever you think of him, he has had a team that's gotten promoted after he's had a preseason with them. So he in his head definitely feels that is something that puts him on the path to success. I think he's a man that likes to have a plan. I think one thing that came out from this particular Q&A was, so there's a lot of praise of the signings of like Ward and Hayden Roberts, for instance, and that's great to hear because that is the kind of signing that we want to make, I think, as a club. Like the guys who are available and can actively make our team better immediately if we plug them in, but they also have room to grow and become better. Both of them are under 26 years old. We would expect that they will still continue to kick on, and as we've said before, because of the age of like Paddy Lane, even though he hasn't had the best season so far, that would be another example of the kind of signing that you want to make. You want to take a chance on those kinds of players, and I think you are going to be taking a chance, so to speak, a little bit more often, kind of in League One. I do think that, as I've said before, with Reading having a very new CEO in Joe Jacobson, and having a little bit of weirdness behind the scenes with the front office over the last few years, I don't hate the idea of Liam being a little bit more of a manager than a coach at the moment, because I think it's good for us to have a solid football mind kind of pushing that forward. And whatever you think of Liam in terms of his tactics and things like that. I think Liam has made it quite clear that he does understand the game and that he has been keeping up with the game over the past few years as well. It's not just that he wants to, it's not like when Paul Ince came in and Paul Ince decided that he was going to have the team play like in the 90s. Like, these are two long ball managers, but they are long ball in a different way, if that makes sense. Like these two, sorry, I don't necessarily want to call Liam a long ball manager yet. Paul Ince definitely is. But like they've showed us some long ball football, but it's done in a very different kind of way, is what I would say. So that kind of encouraged me a little bit, I think, going forward, just thinking that Liam, he's almost certainly going to be the manager for the vast majority of next season, unless it goes horribly. So knowing what the recruitment strategy is going forward and the kinds of signings that he was happy with, I think that's really good to hear, because I really think recruitment is a large part of the ball game, to be honest, in football.
And last night he talked a lot about bringing his own players in and players with pace. And, whilst the frustrations for me personally are still there, particularly after the Port Vale game, it was just...
Which were fair.
Crazy. Yeah, crazy. You look at his signings. So Nyambi, I think it's been a hit.
I think it's been good, yeah.
Roberts, been a hit. Ben Ward, been a hit. Randall Williams, I don't think, he wasn't his best game on Saturday, but I don't think he's been...
I think he's fine. He gives you something. I don't think he was great on Saturday either, but he's versatile, which is useful, right? Because you can use him in the back three, or you can use him in a front in a back four. So kind of useful both ways.
So out of those main ones, you can't really fault what he's done in terms of bringing players in. I don't think. I can't.
Yeah. You? No, I mean, like, obviously you can kind of like criticize that Rinomhota is still not available for the team. Obviously, that's kind of one whereby we have probably now shelled out a good amount of money for a player who can't actually play. So obviously there are going to be some blots in the copybook, and Will Keane, it seems like his injury is worse than even Preston North End thought, or he's just gone out and injured himself again. And that is something that's going to happen with guys who are, I was about to call like guys like Marriott old. Marriott is 2 months younger than me even, so like he's not old, but you get what I mean.
Caden Young as well. Like, again, I think there's been issues with injuries, but the caliber of the players that he's trying to bring in, you can't knock too much. It's the execution around that, and the way we're playing at the moment isn't sustainable. And you could call it a smash and grab, which I did at the start. You talk about pinching results, but if you're going to sneak in the playoffs, and really it does look like a foot race between 4 teams for 6th. I think the other 3 are pretty much there, and we've said all along that Cardiff and Lincoln will go up automatically. I don't see that changing. So we're in a race really with 4 teams for the 6th place. Obviously Huddersfield are in a horrific run of form right now. I mean, I said I wasn't going to ask you this question, in the lead up to the pod. I didn't say that to you.
Did you? Okay, yeah. I just don't believe it until you start talking to me, and I just answer whatever questions you throw at me.
Yeah, I never actually said I wasn't going to ask you, but in my head I wasn't going to ask you. Do you think we're going to make playoffs?
I think we're going to finish second. No, it's so tough to say, isn't it? I think we have a relatively tough run-in, and as I remember, I think we have 2 decent teams in the last couple of weeks as well. But as I've said before now, if you go and look at like the underlying numbers, you'll see that Reading are not the best team right now. They're not even in the top half for like XG differential, underlying numbers and things like that. But Cardiff are also not in the top 10 in that, and yet they continue to score. They continue to save, shots and things like that, and they continue to march their way back to the Championship. And I think that I put a lot of stock in repeatable success and kind of coming up with game plans that can win games rather than like relying on just players. But it has, like I said, been the case now for a few seasons that Reading have been able to pick up points through just having really quality players who can win games for you at the drop of a hat. And I think that's kind of part of what's going on at Cardiff as well, is that they're not the most balanced team ever, but they just have some talent that is beyond what other teams in the league can field. And so, look, I think that we're going to pick up more wins than I expect through the end of the season now, for sure, because we'll just pick them up in games that we don't necessarily, deserve to win. Do I think we're going to make it? No, I don't quite think we're going to make it without Jack Marriott personally, because my concern is I think the repeatable thing going on right now is, like I said, this attempt to draw the opposition onto us and then to kick it over the top of them. And I mean, unless Sean Patton comes in and is so well suited to that and can immediately start, replacing the goals that Marriott is picking up, I think we're really going to struggle with that. Marriott was so far ahead of his XG in terms of he was just scoring at a rate that was unsustainable for him. It's certainly unsustainable for Kelvin, and I would guess it's unsustainable for Sean Patton as well, which means that we are going to start dropping some points that Marriott's not going to pick up for us. And for the millionth time, I don't have the number of points that Marriott's won for us this season with me today, but I think that this is kind of where you'll start seeing us not pick up those points, right? Like maybe we'll have like a 1-1 draw with a team in the bottom half of the table, and we'll just not quite be able to, turn that into a win that gets us into the playoffs. So if Marriott's out for the full, the rest of the season, I don't think we'll make the playoffs personally.
Well, just for context, Cardiff and Lincoln are well away in the top two, 11 and 10 points respectively above Bolton.
That SpongeBob meme where it's Squidward standing in his house and then he's looking out of the blinds and SpongeBob and Patrick are running around having a good time. That's what Cardiff and Lincoln are up to. Yeah.
This is obviously currently at 8:42 on Tuesday, so there are games tonight. There's a few games tonight. This is where we're at currently with the table. You got Bolton. Bradford.
Do you think? Can I ask you though, Ben, real quick? Sorry,
interrupting.
I will.
Quick,
I know. Shut up. Sorry. Sorry. Do you think we'll finish 7th for a second season in a row?
It's possible.
I think we will. I think we're going to finish 7th for a second season.
I'm all right with that. I love consistency.
Do you think that we'll still be in the playoff hunt on the final week of the season like we were last year? I don't. By the way, I think we'll be gone by then.
I think we will, but yeah.
I just don't think I think
control. To be honest with you, we've got good games to come up. I think we will be.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
So Bolton, Bradford, and Stockport are 61, 58, 56 respectively. Then you got a bit of a gap. So you got Huddersfield in 6th on 52, Reading on 51, Stevenage on 51. Wickham 50 and Luton 47, and then there's Peterborough, Plymouth, and Barnsley 46 and 44. So that's going to be a hard push for them. Luton, if they buck up their ideas, they might be in the mix as well. But at the moment, for me, there's 5 teams for one spot. So just to put that into context, in form over the last 6 games, Bolton are 4th over the last 6 games with 11 points. We are 5th with 11 points as well. Then you go down to Stevenage in 9th with 9 points. Luton in 15th with 8 points. And Huddersfield in 16th with 7 points from the last 6 games. That's terrible, isn't it, really? That is. It
is. Last time out, we were kind of like saying it was Bradford who were really falling. And they are still kind of, but... Yeah, it does seem that Huddersfield aren't having the best time as well. But yeah, I mean, like this is the kind of time, isn't it, where the teams that have, like I remember this in the first Paunovic season, but this is that kind of year. Oh, this is that time of year when those teams that have kind of been in the playoff hunt since like way early in the season, like they've been up there since September, when they start to have their wobbles, I feel like, where they're like, are we gonna continue, or are we just a little bit out of ideas? I think this is, and I think that's not unheard of, because like obviously as I've spoken about, everyone's watching everyone now, and everyone can game plan against everyone. And I think that, like, if you're a team that really kicked on in the first half of the season, then like managers have had ages to watch you and what you do, and they've worked out ways in which to kind of beat it at this point. So yeah, it doesn't surprise me that teams have wobbles at this stage of the season, but I suppose we just gotta hope that those wobbles continue while Liam continues to game manage us through points. And I do think that he managed us through these points against Bradford, by the way. I think Liam was as responsible for this result against Bradford as he was, as like Paddy Lane or Richie was. But the flip side to that is that I would have said the same thing if Reading had lost in this and they hadn't got those last minute things. I would have said Liam is just as responsible for this. And I think that there are two reasons for that. One, I think that he set up his team in a way that pretty solidly mitigated Bradford, but also mitigated his own team's attacking ability. And then I think, like you suggested, he went to that sort of 2 up front. I think he tweaked it towards the end and it worked. And like he found a way to get us through that game. So if we can continue to do that while these other teams wobble, who knows where we end up. But for me, it's probably not the playoffs.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. It's still a long way to go. Still a lot of football. You know, we are approaching the end of the season, but still a lot of games to play. And by all accounts, a lot of questions to answer on YouTube. So Ross is going to handpick a few in the listeners' corner. Right, so welcome back to episode 450 something,
53. Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. I'm currently drinking a Shea Stripes gluten-free Pilsner from Siren Brewcraft.
Very nice.
Brewcraft.
Whatever they're craft artisans. That's what they are.
They are. And we've actually partnered with them to give our subscribers and friends 10% off your next Siren order if you use code Tilehurst10 at the checkout on their web shop on a minimum spend of £30. You get 10% off. So it's pretty good.
That is good. Yeah, not bad at all.
What questions have you got?
Yeah, so I thought we'd do a bit of a YouTube comment special for the mailbag today because we've got an awful lot of them for on the last pod. So thank you very much for that, guys. The last pod was popular too, the mums in their 40s pod. So that's good. Thank you to all the mums in their 40s, including one who specifically reached out to me to dig me out. I do need that. Otherwise, my ego will get too big.
Did they?
They did, yeah. And they were exactly correct to do that. They were like, hey, now, mums in their 40s know what a good performance looks like, too. They're not just happy about any other result. So I thought that was good. Anyway.
That's absolutely amazing.
So we got a good one. We kind of were asking about like who people's favorite Reading managers in the last 10 to 15 years were, kind of since the last Premier League era for Reading, if you remember, Ben. And Jamie Westcar says, Ruben Sellers for sure. You can tell why I picked this one. Initially tried to go for his 4-2-2-2 shape. When he realized it wasn't working, he adapted and found a system that clicked. Most managers nowadays will keep beating a dead horse with their one and only tactical setup until they inevitably get sacked. Now, Ben, what has happened to Ruben Sellers on day of recording today, March 3rd?
Been fired.
He has, for the third time in the space of 9 months or something like that. So rolling in the the money there, I guess. But he does say, Jamie Westcar, he says, I'm now aware Ruben has been sacked for the third time since he left Reading, and yes, I'd still have him back. So that's good. Good to see that there was someone else there who's a big fan.
I just wouldn't.
No, I wouldn't go back. No, God, no.
I think people forget the amount of trash that he was dealing with off the field, and I think anyone else would have gone sooner than he did. I don't know. I just get this feeling, and actually, I think I don't know. I'm really talking about ex-players and managers, but I feel for him in the fact that he's had 3 jobs since, and none of them have worked out. And I think there was something on social media around the worst ever there was, the Eric Ramsey, the West Brom guy who got sacked after 9 games and didn't win any of them. And someone was like, it's the worst ever championship appointment in the history of football, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And someone mentioned Ruben Sellers at Sheffield United, and I just thought that's a real shame, actually, because he took the team on the pitch a long way and he stabilised it, certainly with the fans off it. I think he gave them a lot of hope. He gave me a lot of hope. I'm sure he gave a lot of our listeners a lot of hope.
At Reading, this is not at Sheffield United, obviously.
No, Sheffield United. I don't care about Sheffield United. And it was really sad, he went to Hull. Interesting choice, but whatever. Sheffield United and now, Real Zaragoza. So I think it's really hard for him. And I think it's probably an indication that he needs to take a step back.
Yeah, I think Ruben probably needs like a year off. And I mean, like we learned this when we spoke to him a few years ago. I mean, he's a workaholic, and the guy's been working in football like for full seasons now since he was like what, 18 or something like that. So yeah, I would agree. Ruben kind of needs some time off. I wouldn't take Ruben back right now, by the way. Like I think that's kind of like a nice little era that you kind of remember now. You can put that into it, sort of like you can shelve that nicely. That was the Ruben Sellers era. That was when we played some like cool pressing football. But clearly we're in a very different period under Liam. And especially now that he's had time to sort of buy players that suit him, I wouldn't necessarily, he wouldn't go and say, get rid of him, bring in like a new manager, especially one of these old ones that I love. But yeah, good luck to Sellers. I do think he should probably take a little bit of time off. And I think you're right. It's sad that he is now kind of thought of as one of these like worst appointments ever in championship history. But I think that he's just one of those coaches that works better with a young team that's got a lot to prove and, like really wants to bring that energy and doesn't do the best when it, comes to established players who have a little bit of wiggle room at their club because they've been there for a bit of time or they're experienced or whatever. So, yeah. Got another one. This is from Muckboaster. He says, "Great pod, lads. Muckboaster. Yeah. So there you go. You normally like to read out the Twitter strange handles and things like that. So I thought I'd bring you some of my own to play with. Muckboaster says, "Great pod, lads. Do not think Calvini has been anywhere near good enough since his injury last year, and when he signed at the last minute when he couldn't get a better offer. I think him and Calvin Abrafa, the latter of which is clearly not up to standard, will both be in the National League within 2 seasons." That's so, Ben, I guess like there's 2 things here. He asks about, like what could be affecting Calvini's performances, I think, which I do think partially comes down to the team don't play in any kind of system that suits him. But I also wonder, do you think there's an element here of like you play for your contract and then once you've got your contract, you start to snake off a little bit? I feel like this is the Raheem Sterling approach, right? Like for a while, he was incredible whenever he had a contract to sign.
I think it's difficult, isn't it? I think. Well, what do you think, first of all?
I think it entirely comes down to the manager. My opinion from talking to players is generally like, if you can be like whatever, you can be like, incredible and you can have like, all these skills and qualities that could be used on the field. But if the manager doesn't have a place for you in his particular style of play, then I just don't think it's ever really going to work for you. It's like how Nick Blackman used to talk about Nigel Adkins, for instance. He's very aware that he was a nice guy, but just didn't like him because Nigel Adkins didn't have any use for him as a player. I think that's part of what's going on with Kelvin. I think, like Sean Patton coming back is almost certainly linked to the injuries as well. But I wouldn't be surprised if Sean Patton is leading the line by the end of the season right now.
Yeah, it feels difficult. Like I want him to succeed desperately. Obviously,
yeah.
We've talked a lot about him on the pod, and he he's come through the youth and been there a while. I think the summer probably messed the relationship up quite a lot.
Yeah.
I don't really know what was going to be achieved by dragging that out, and whether or not it was generally down to money, or they were waiting to see if something else came along, or he was waiting to see if something else came along. I don't know, but that never sets the tone. That never sets out, oh yeah, it's a great start to the relationship again, or whatever.
Right.
I don't see him being a Reading player for long. I don't think Liam fancies him long term. I think if you're gonna gamble on a striker, like you said, you're gonna go with Sean Patton, aren't you?
Yeah.
And then you're going to bring in established players. Will Keane won't be a Reading player next year, so it leaves him and Jack Marriott.
The problem for me with Kelvin, Ben, just thinking, is kind of like, what do you do with him in terms of an asset? Like, do you leave him to just sort of like play with the U21s and come in when he can help, like next year? Like, do you try to loan him out so that you can like get some cash for him in January in the hopes that he builds his value a little bit elsewhere? I mean, how would you manage that contract now that you've signed him for 2 years?
Well, we talked about this last week, didn't we, about transfer listing players. Do clubs still do that? You know, is there like a kind of, you can have these players for X amount of money?
Yeah.
Or do you rip up the contract and say, look, it's not going to work, we don't want you, you know, you better go and find something else because otherwise you're going to sit for a year in the under-21s or whatever. I don't know how it works these days. Like it used to be a big thing back in the day of like transfer listing players and, you know, like that was the end of the line. But now you don't really hear of that, do you? You don't really hear of clubs being really explicit about that.
I feel like the front officers are better staffed. And I feel like the front officers are better staffed and they're communicating with other clubs directly much more often in that regard. Like I think that the way in which the Garcia thing happened, right, for instance, would be, for me, I would expect that maybe there is some internal system, you know, that the clubs use that kind of can list like players who may be, you know, not playing as much or available or whatever. Maybe that exists. I wouldn't be surprised to hear that that exists, but I also wouldn't be surprised to hear that that conversation started from the club that eventually signed Garcia calling Reading and going, how would you feel about, you know, selling this player, basically? Like, is this player available? And I think a lot of players become available through clubs asking if they are available, basically.
On that Garcia thing, I have a lot of respect for the way Liam handled that, because clearly the first time he met him, it wasn't positive, and Liam went, "No, you're right." Like, I think that's good. You know, you don't want, as a fan, you don't want players that don't want to be there, let alone a manager. So the fact that he's clocked that straight away and gone, the first opportunity we get, he's gone. I think that was a positive move.
I do think he's quite decisive, Liam. I think once he's made his mind up, that's what he's doing. You know, like it's quite hard to change his mind about anything, really, I think. Like he kind of shared some of his opinions on social media, you know, at the Q&A, and many of them are pretty correct, and I agree with some of them. But they were also quite clearly formed in a different era of social media, if that makes sense, which doesn't surprise me because I just get the sense that he is the kind of guy who forms his opinion, and then that's his opinion, basically. But I could be wrong. I'm talking out of my bottom. So anyway.
Yeah.
Mark's here saying that we shouldn't have got rid of Garcia, and yet we kept Calvin E. But I think Garcia was just, yeah, like you said, I just don't think it was going to work. I don't think it was going to work with Reading, unfortunately. No.
What's she got? Anything
else? So let me see here. I've got. Generally, this was after the 2 like 1-1, so the vibe is a bit more negative than it has been over the last couple of things. I don't want to go too negative, but Mark G4B9B. Sorry, I missed the dash. But anyway, I think he says, I think we need to play 4-4-2. It's the only way forward with this manager. But he wants big Kelvin and Jack up front. So clearly, not everyone has given up on Kelvin Ehibachiman just yet. But he thinks the fact that Richardson has not played this formation yet. At that time, he wasn't particularly happy with not having seen that. Ben, do you think Liam will have bought himself some time with the kind of result against Bradford, you know, even though the performance was still, I mean, neither team's got more than 1 XG in this game, so I mean, it wasn't good either way.
Do I think Liam's brought himself
some time? You think he's like made himself more popular with the Reading fans as a result of the Bradford result?
I think what we've learned is that there's a bit more personality behind him over the last couple of days. and we're seeing sides of him that we probably didn't see.
Yeah.
I think it was the perfect response to an incredibly poor performance against the bottom of the table side, who are pretty much done and dusted. And it felt like he was making excuses and saying odd things after the game. Do I think? I mean, I don't think he's under pressure. So
no,
I don't feel like I don't think like he needs to buy himself some time, because the ownership aren't going to get rid of him. They're going to give him the summer, they're going to give him the pre-season, and we have to, as a fan base, ride this period out. And I guess I've come to accept that over the last week or so. It's difficult. I mean, will the result and maybe what he said last night have turned some people towards him? Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Like, who doesn't love a last minute winner? You look at when Gomez came in and we had that Wigan game and it was incredible. Like, that was a really good start for him and to bring people with him and to show what teams are all about. So I think I think it's going to be an interesting summer to see how it pans out. I would not get rid of him at all until then, regardless of whether we get playoffs or not. I think it'd be disappointing if we didn't get playoffs, but I'm expecting us, to be there or thereabouts again, and I'm all right with that. It's more around, I need to see, as a fan, I need to see that there is a plan moving forward with this group of players, but then also, thinking about phasing players out over time. So, yeah, I mean, it's a good question, but I don't feel like he's under pressure.
The reason I ask, to try and get at some of the animus, is that you mentioned that there were boos when there were subs in this game in the second half. Do you think those boos were related to the personnel, or do you think that was directly aimed at Liam making those decisions? Was this like a "you don't know what you're doing" kind of thing, or was this a "we don't want that player to come on" kind of thing?
Difficult.
Tricky. Yeah.
It's another good question.
And the reason I ask, sorry, as I interrupt you for the 50th time, the reason I ask this is because, like, we both want to be like a team that is like shooting for probably like automatics, like at least having a pop at them next year. And I think that, like, if the manager is like at a stage with his fans whereby like every time he makes a decision that they don't love, he starts getting booed from the concourses, like, that's just going to create tension, and like it's not the best environment in which to like build up winning momentum, in my opinion. And so, like, I think that Liam is clearly going to be around. That is very clearly the case, but I do think that he has a slight winning of hearts and minds that he needs to do still with the Reading fans, because the more we're all pulling together, the more like the positivity is going to be around the club next season as we go for, like a better result than we've had this season, basically. So I think that's kind of what I want to see, is that as, the weeks go on, we have a better sense of what it is that Liam's going to do, and we are a bit calmer as a fan base, including myself, about, how this team are playing, because it is clear that he's going to be around for a while. So yeah, I just think it's interesting.
Yeah, and it's it's a process, isn't it?
Indeed.
And I think I'm probably more inclined to be appreciative of that process rather than like not appreciative or whatever, if that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah.
Any more for any more? Anything else?
No, that's everything. Thank you to YouTube. Oh, and we got over 1,000 subscribers, though. So thank you. Yeah, we're up there. We're a real boys now. And that's very exciting for us. So thank you to everyone who watched and listened, and subscribed and all of that kind of good stuff. We will continue to pump out good stuff there. Like I said, there's a video I kind of put on the other day on the shorts. So check that out too. But that's everything. Anything from the other place? Anything good?
There was one thing from Tom Sheeran. He was keeping up his streak again. I was one of the few fans very annoyed Kelvin E stayed on the pitch. He was dire and missed 2 decent opportunities in the first half. Like the look of pattern. Hopefully Leam Richardson gives him a start. I hate Leam Richardson ball, but I don't want to keep seeing Leam Richardson. But I sure do like a last-minute winner. Thoughts on playing 2 up top?
Yeah, that we've kind of talked about.
I'm in favour of it. I think, I would rather see him trying things now and going, this is a style of play I want to play. You don't know what personnel come along in the summer and what changes the complexion of the playing squad. So, for me, I've always liked 2 up top. I'm a big fan of that.
If you're going to hit the ball long, go 2 up top is my opinion. But more than that is my opinion. I just think that you need a bank of 4 in terms of like your wide forwards, and then either your 10 and your striker or your 2 strikers. And that, if that's, how we want to do it through 4-4-2, which often becomes like a 4-2-4, then go for it. I'm fine with that.
Yeah. We've had no backlash to the fact we don't do a preview anymore.
That's how we make our decisions. We're like, no one complained.
What are you doing, you complete idiots? So that's really good. So we're going to continue that because we don't have a preview. We will shamelessly plug the official sites. Whatever they are, preview with opposing fans, because Ryan's doing a good job with them. He obviously he's learned everything. He knows about presenting from me and a very small part from Ross. But
right,
we like them. They're good. They're good content. It's it's nice to listen to opposing fans as well and talk like they're the ones that go to games. Why not ask them? Why not go to them directly? It's a very clever move. So, please check those out. There are unofficial review. We're kind of piggybacking those, and Ryan knows about this, so it's all good.
I think I might try and find something else though to sort of fill this time. Like maybe next week you come in, Ben, and I'll have like a quiz for you or something like that. Because I enjoyed doing the quiz last time, so maybe I'll find something.
What is the best ocean creature?
Yes, exactly. Would you rather be a cod or a haddock? All of these things and more can be asked.
So yeah, it's onwards and upwards. We play a Luton Town team that have got their own issues. Obviously Jack Wilshere and what he's been doing has been well documented over the last few weeks. But it's a good opportunity to try and sneak in the playoffs by sort of 5:15 on Saturday evening. We go in all right form. We go in a bit of confidence, having nicked that result on Saturday. Yeah, look, why not? Why not be confident? Just go and do it. Just go and get it done. We've only got a few games left, so let's just go and smash it, shall we? Let's get to Wembley.
Get out there. Let's make it all the way through. Let's go and have another horrible time at Wembley.
Yeah, well, no, we got to win at some point.
Well, in theory, yeah. Hey, you know what? If we can get a last-minute winner and we're not on the opposite side of that, then maybe we can win at Wembley as well.
True. That is true.
Because we don't have a win at New Wembley yet, do we? I don't think we do.
No.
No, yeah. So maybe this is the year, guys. Maybe the duck comes off our back. Yeah.
Maybe it is.
Maybe LinkedIn Liam is League One. Finish the pod. I haven't got anything.
Thank you very much as always for listening and for your comments and for everything. We've got a lot of content coming out, which we do for the love of the game, the love of the club. Ross has got his Liam tactic video up, which is very, very good. He's also done tonight. It's the second pod of the night. That's why he's getting weary. But he did a piece with Peter Matthews, as he said at the top of the pod. So that'll be out pretty soon about the women's team. Bobbins has done a cracking article about where he's at with the club and kind of what we've called Liam Ball.
One other quick note on the women's team for you. I just wanted to, I know I already said this, but I'm just going to keep saying it. And I'll say it again on the next pod as well. But March 22nd, you can get your tickets now. Reading are in the semi-final of the League Cup. They are playing against AFC Portchester at Arbour Park in Slough. Peter tells me, well, he wants the team to be in Reading, as we all do, but he does tell me that the facilities at Arbour Park are excellent. So do check that out. Do support the team, because they've really made something out of the second half of their season. After having a kind of tricky first month or so, they really have made, they've given themselves a chance to do some pretty exciting things, and I think they feel as a unit that they are coming together more as a team. So yeah, it could be exciting times for the women in the next month or so.
Yeah, look, look, we want every age of the club to succeed. We want every team at the club to succeed. We've always said that, and it is never ever a question of wanting anybody to fail ever at the football club. You know, we'll have our opinions on people, personality, styles of play, but we wouldn't do this podcast if we didn't care and we didn't want them to succeed. So we are absolutely desperate for this football club to succeed at every level, and I'm sure you are as listeners as well. So
it's really good that we can lie like this, because Paul Ince's season happened before you and I took over the pod, and if like I had been having to pod while it was Paul Ince's season, like it would not have been all positive and won him at my club.
I don't think it's all positive now. I just we want a winning team. You know, we want success, we want long-term success, we want stability, we want all these things. So you know, you have to take the rough with the smooth, as we've done since we've taken over this pod. A lot more rough than it is smooth, but you know, we appreciate all the comments. We appreciate all the comments and the listens and the interactions and the engagement and all that sort of stuff. And the 1,000 subscribers that we've got on YouTube, which is massive. So
yeah, thank you guys for that. It is huge. Yeah, and yeah, lots of good stuff coming out.
Don't forget to use your discount at Surren. Craft.
Do you want to read out the code or whatever it was one more time?
Tilehurst 10.
Nice. And look at our website if you don't know how to spell Tilehurst.
Yeah, exactly. Have a wonderful week, everybody, or the second part of the week. If you're going to Luton, enjoy that. Get us 3 points. We'll be back next week with a recap of Luton. We've got a game next week at midweek as well, haven't we?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, so we'll be back at some point next week. I think so. Yeah, gets back to that weekend, you know, weekend kind of thing. So look forward to that.
We'll be back. We're always back. We always say that. We're always back. But let us know your comments. Anything you want to say to us, good, bad, negative, positive, indifferent, whatever.
Down there.
Subscribe, like, chat, share, post, whatever.
Espouse.
What does that mean?
I don't know. Talk about loudly.
Things. Fun.
Yeah.
Ross, take care.
Take care, mate. Thanks as always. Always good to chat.
And come on, you ass.